Welcome back to the last session of the 500 Hats of Bartholomew Cubbins. The last time was the 500 Hats of Bartholomew Cubbins by Dr. Seuss, published by Random House. During the last session, we finished the middle of the story, where King Derwin tried to get rid of Bartholomew's hats, and nothing worked. Can you turn and tell someone next to you one way that King Derwin tried to get rid of Bartholomew's hats, either from session 2 or session 3? Okay, today we are going to read the last part, the ending of the 500 Hats of Bartholomew Cubbins. Let's find out what happens and see how Bartholomew's problem is finally solved. Suddenly, this is as they're walking up the stairs toward the highest tower of the castle. Suddenly, Sir Alaric stopped. He looked. He took off his triangular spectacles and wiped them on his sleeve. And then he looked again. The hats began to change. Hat 451 had not one, but 2 feathers. Hat 452 had 3, and 453 also had 3 and a little red jewel. Each new hat was fancier than the hat just before. "Your Majesty! Your Majesty!" cried out Sir Alaric. But the king and the Grand Duke were way up where they couldn't hear. They had already reached the top of the highest turret. Bartholomew was following just behind. Step right out here and get out on that wall," snapped the Grand Duke Wilfrid. "I can't wait to push you off." Look at that amazing hat that Bartholomew's wearing. Look at the king. Do you see his face? How does he feel? Turn and tell someone how the king feels. Yes, he looks surprised, but he's also happy. He's overjoyed. And look at Sir Wilfrid. How does he look? Or Grand Duke Wilfrid. How does he look? You're right, he looks angry. Why do you think that the king looks so happy? What do you think he's thinking? Turn and tell Mom or Dad, or someone sitting near you, what you think the king is thinking. Yeah, I think he's pretty interested in that hat. Look at the jewel on that hat. Look at the ruby. It's amazing. And look at Sir Wilfrid. How does he look? We said he looked angry. Why do you think Sir Wilfrid is so angry? Turn and talk to Mom or Dad or someone sitting near you and tell them why you think Grand Duke Wilfrid is so angry. Yes, I agree. I think he's kind of jealous of Bartholomew Cubbins' hat. What do you think? Yeah. Okay, let's find out what happens. But when Bartholomew stepped up on the wall, they gasped in amazement. He was wearing the most beautiful hat that had ever been seen in the kingdom of Did. It had a ruby larger than any the king himself had ever owned. It had ostrich plumes and paradise plumes. Besides such a hat, even the king's crown seemed like nothing. The Grand Duke Wilfrid took a quick step forward. Bartholomew thought his end had come at last. "Wait!" shouted the king. He He could not take his eyes off the magnificent hat. "I won't wait," the Grand Duke talked back to the king. "I'm going to push him off now. That new big hat makes me madder than ever." And he flung out his arms to push Bartholomew off. But the king was quicker than Wilfred. He grabbed him by the back of his fine lace collar. "This is to teach you," His Majesty said sternly, "that Grand Dukes never talk back to their king." And he turned the Grand Duke Wilfred over his knee and spanked him soundly right on the seat of his royal silk pants. "And now," smiled the king, lifting Bartholomew down from the wall, "it would be nice if you'd sell me that wonderful hat." 498, 499, broke in the tired voice of Sir Alaric, who had just arrived at the top of the steps. "And that," he pointed to the hat on Bartholomew's head, "makes exactly 500. 500? Exclaimed the king. "Will you sell it for 500 pieces of gold?" "Anything you say, sire," answered Bartholomew. "You see, I've never sold one before." The king's hands trembled with joy as he reached for the hat. Slowly, slowly, Bartholomew felt the weight of the great hat lifting from his head. He held his breath. Then suddenly he felt the cool evening breezes blow through his hair. His face broke into a happy smile. The head of Bartholomew Cubbins was bare. "Look, Your Majesty, look!" he shouted to the king. "No, you look at me," answered the king, and he put the great hat on right over his crown. Arm in arm, the king and Bartholomew went down to the counting room to count out the gold. Then the king sent Bartholomew home to his parents. No basket on his arm, no hat on his head, but with 500 pieces of gold in a bag. And the king commanded that the great hat he had bought, and all the other hats too, be kept forever in a great crystal case by the side of his throne. But neither Bartholomew Cubbins, nor King Derwin himself, nor anyone else in the kingdom of Did could ever explain how the strange thing had happened. They only could say it just happened to happen and was not very likely to happen again. And that is the end of the story. I hope you liked it. And the ending, of course, is where the main character's problem is solved. So how was Bartholomew Cubbins' problem solved? What happened? He didn't do anything directly to solve the problem, but what amazing thing happened? Turn and talk to mom or dad or brother or sister or someone near you and tell them how the problem in the story was solved. Yes, you are right. The problem was solved when the hats began to get fancier and fancier until the 500th hat was the most beautiful, amazing hat that had ever been seen. And the king fell in love with it. And not only that, but it was the last hat on Bartholomew's head. But because the king loved the hat so much, he gave Bartholomew Cubbins 500 pieces of gold. And Bartholomew Cubbins was no longer poor. So that problem was solved too. I hope you liked the story. We will have another read aloud again soon. Bye-bye, first graders. I miss you.